Here we go.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 50, the 5. A touchdown with Virginia. He did it. He did it.
Left to Dwight. Beavers are he's gone. Touchdown. Tavon Austin.
As the hills of West Virginia resound with the sounds of Golden Blue football.
They want to have a 7-on-7 drill. We want to make it a fist fight. Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football.
From the heart, streaming. It's Mountaineer pride. Leave no doubt tonight. No doubt. They shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue.
West Virginia is a special place. People are the state that have great pride in this WV logo.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
It is a great night to be a Mountaineer wherever you may be.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into a very exciting, very special game week live stream here where we try and get your all's predictions, take your all's questions ahead of the upcoming West Virginia football game. And of course, this week it's a special one because it's Pitt week. I don't have to tell you guys that. It's Pitt Hate Week, Backyard Brawl Week, whatever you want to call it. And we're here to discuss it with you. Hopefully you guys have had a chance by now to listen or to watch our preview and predictions episode for the Backyard Brawl. And hopefully you've heard our keys to victory, heard our score predictions for the game. And then after we release that, we always like to get your all score predictions for the game and talk about the game a little bit with your alls and get your all's thoughts on the matchups after you hear ours. So that's why we like to do these game week Q&A prediction streams leading up to West Virginia games, of course. Try and release them, a day or two after we release the predictions podcast episode. So here we are back again, and feel free, drop your questions, comments, concerns, anything you got West Virginia related in the chat there. We'll address it throughout. But most importantly, as you see on the whiteboard there behind me, drop your score predictions for West Virginia versus Pitt in the chat. I'll pull those up on screen and we'll discuss those. Got a couple of news topics to discuss as we go throughout, but in between I will touch on y'all's predictions and comments, questions, concerns you got throughout. You guys know how we like to run this here on the CRW. But before we get too much further in, want to remind you guys, whether you're tuned in live or on a playback, hitting that like button really helps us out. And subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you're a West Virginia fan. Helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. But first of all, let's kick this off kind of the way we usually do on these streams, and that's talking a little bit about West Virginia's jerseys now that they've been revealed, the uniforms for the Backyard Brawl. We knew they were breaking out the Country Roads uniform again, but we didn't know exactly what the helmets would look like, what the pants would look like. They finally revealed that tonight, a nice little video. I'm not going to share the whole video. I'm just going to share some stills here, but as you can see right here, that's the helmet. Let's see if I can get even closer on that maybe. Yeah, there we go. Whoops. That's the Country Roads helmet for the home version we're wearing this year. As you all know, last year were the Country Roads uniforms that Nike made for a special edition for the Backyard Brawl on the road there at Acrisure Stadium, the white version. This year, we're getting the blue and gold version at home, and you see the blue helmet with the gold state silhouette and the blue WV inside. Looks really great. Get the stripes on the helmet just like you had last year. Really love these helmets. I loved the ones last year. I love these ones again. The one I last year. I got the mini version of it. Hopefully they release a mini version of this one as well. I can get it also, put it on display here on the background. That'd be awesome. And honestly, I would not be upset if our primary uniform set, next time they redid them, resembled something like these country road uniforms have, because I would love, our away uniform and our home uniform to be something like this. I know other people would want blue jerseys. I've put in the past before already. I love the gold. It's my favorite, but I love the stripe on the helmet and I love the stripe on the pants. More importantly, I've been clamoring for a stripe on the pants for a while. Looks great. Looks great. I preferred the West Virginia across the chest to the Mountaineers, but the Mountaineers still looks good. But I really liked the West Virginia across the chest on the white version last season. There's another close up of the helmet there. You see the visor that they got on. It's pretty cool. And the Country Roads design, if you guys remember, it's got like the state, interstate through these stripes, which are on the sleeves, and of course right there through the helmet stripe as well. And there's another still that they released. I think I have another. See if I had another. I thought I had another tab of someone that had tweeted out a different picture of the helmet. See if I can pull that up here. Let me know your all's thoughts though. What are you thinking about these versions of the Country Roads uniforms, especially compared to last year? Yeah, at C Fowler WVU here with a different angle of the helmet. A little bit closer look there at the helmet on the side. I really like that logo a lot. But yeah, I like these overall. I think we're going to look fly out there against Pitt coming up on Saturday night. But let me know what you guys think. I think they're good. I got a couple people in here already. Silas, as always, appreciate you tuning in and chiming in. He says, let's go beat Pitt. Hey, absolutely. Beat Pitt, eat shit Pitt week. Absolutely. Timothy, what's going on, man? Good to see you again, as always. Love the show. Hey, we love you, brother. Let's go Mountaineers. Indeed. Beat Pitt. He's going 31-21. I like that. Double-digit victory. Timothy says the uniforms are badass. 100% agree. 100% agree. I think that they nailed it both years. The away version of the Country Roads uniforms last year and the home version this year. Jimmy says they're fire. Looking that good just to take an L. Hey, that's what you think, Jimmy. That's what you think. Hey, go ahead. If you're a bet man, place it on there. I wouldn't do it if I was you, though. Hopefully you've got a chance to catch the preview podcast. You saw how I'm feeling. I'm a little bit even more confident than Timothy Green is in there. I think that I really like this matchup for the Mountaineers this year, to be honest. But, like I said, on paper it can be one thing, the matchup can be whatever, but you can throw all that out the window in a rivalry game. We've seen it happen plenty of times, plenty of upsets in this series history, so you never know what's going to happen until it comes down to it Saturday night. But I certainly think West Virginia is going to be ready. I think they're wanting to serve up that revenge, and I hopefully going to see them do it Saturday night. I've got a good feeling about it. And usually once it gets to this point in the week, if I still got a good feeling, it usually ends up a pretty good result, because usually by this point in the week, if it ends up being a bad result, I kind of get a little bit more nervous. And although I am nervous for this game, it's more just because it's the brawl, it's because it's the rivalry, and it's kind of an adrenaline running thing. And that's, like I said on the podcast, that's been starting since like Sunday already, once you knew it was backyard brawl week. And obviously the magnitude of this game's crazy. One of the most important West Virginia games in quite some time on the football side, especially for Neil Brown. I mean, you've heard it from several different sources talking about not only the biggest game of his WVU tenure, but maybe the biggest game of his head coaching career to this point. So certainly a lot of things on the line. Jimmy, I've been wrong before, so you could be right, but we'll see. We'll see. Does Neil get fired instantly if y'all lose, or y'all give him till the end of the season? Oh, he's not getting fired. He's not getting fired this year, I don't think. West Virginia's never fired a coach in mid-season before. So I don't think that they'll start this year. That's one thing I've said from the beginning is even if they are ultimately going to fire him, you won't find out till October, November, and I still think they'd let him ride out the end of the season personally. But no, I don't think they're making their decision based on this game. The fan base certainly is. If he doesn't beat Pitt, I think the fan base is all the way out, and he probably can't get them ball back in. But this Pitt game has a chance to maybe still sway some people that are on the fence about him, I think. And like I said, I'm hoping to see get a win over Pitt, and then we really can maybe start to say, hey, maybe we got something happening here. Maybe we're turning a corner. We're 2-1, with Texas Tech coming to town for another home game, and maybe he could beat a team that he hadn't beat then, and then you're really in a good spot. But we'll see what happens. But no, I certainly don't think they fire him instantly. And like I said, I don't think they'd fire him midseason. Just West Virginia just doesn't do that really traditionally. Yeah. as Timothy says, just never happens. West Virginia just doesn't do it. So I expect Neil Brown to ride out this season no matter what, barring some crazy unforeseen circumstances. But I think that he's here at least for this year. Touch base on at the end of the year, but hopefully it becomes a non-issue throughout this season. Hopefully we continue to pile up wins and win some ball games, and he turns that corner. Like I said, we'll see what happens. Gonna find out a big barometer of which way we're heading Saturday night. I think that's why everyone's talking about this being such a big game. So wanted to share those jerseys with you guys. Other than that, there is some news and notes I had here otherwise. This one I'm sure you guys may have seen already. We covered this on the podcast as well, but wanted to touch on it in the stream here. Continue, drop your all score predictions for the game down there in the chat. I'll share them on the screen, and any other questions, comments, concerns you have. Won't stay with you guys too late. Won't keep you guys up too late. I typically try and do these a little bit earlier, but had to work late tonight, so earliest I could start it was about 10, unfortunately. But oh well, at least we're getting it out. Didn't want to not do it this week and not get your all's predictions and try and get the Q&A stream in. So we'll be here with you for as late as you guys stay interactive and as long as stories I have, I guess. But as far as game time announcement for the game against Texas Tech, like I said, it'll be another home game for West Virginia coming up on the 23rd. It's going to be televised on ESPN Plus, and it's going to be a 3:30 kick there, Mountaineer Field, for the game against Texas Tech, which will follow the one against Pitt. So that'll be the fourth game of the season for the Mountaineers, but hopefully we get a win over Pitt before that happens. But knew that came out in recent days. Covered it on the pod, wanted to cover it here as well in case people hadn't got a chance to see or listen to the pod episode, however you take that in. But be sure to do that if you haven't had a chance to. Just release that earlier this morning, our Backyard Brawl preview and predictions episode. Always really fun when talking about the brawl and really enjoyed it. But Jimmy Rollins says 24-10 Pitt. Wow. He's not giving any faith in the Mountaineer offense. Man, Jimmy, I don't know if you realize what's about to happen. It's a night game in Morgantown. That's special time, special place. And we've been clamoring for it since 2016 for a reason. And it's the first one in 7 years. First time Pitt's been in Morgantown in over a decade. You're talking about a crowd that's going to be absolutely insane. So that's going to give West Virginia an advantage right there. I think that keeps it close. And you've seen the bettors come around on the Mountaineers as well. The line opened up at Pitt. It swung all the way back to West Virginia. I think it started Pitt +2. It's all the way back to West Virginia favored by 3 now. A lot of money coming in on the Mountaineers. I think Pitt's performance against Cincinnati might be one reason, but I think the home atmosphere for West Virginia, knowing it's a night game in Morgantown, primetime TV, with the rivalry returning, a lot of people are really looking at that and speculating. So, Jimmy, I think you're underestimating the Mountaineer Field home atmosphere, especially for night games there at Mountaineer Field there. It's special stuff can happen. We've seen a lot of special things. And if I'm not mistaken, you're a Virginia Tech fan. Weren't you guys ranked number 3? What was that, 2003, and y'all lost 28-7, and we weren't even any good that year. I mean, that just goes to show you how crazy night games in Morgantown can get, and that's just one example off the top of my head. But moving on to something else, Neil Brown covered this in his radio show, I believe, earlier tonight, and I thought some people would be interested to see this. It's something that we've talked about since the performance. We knew he would flip over to that X position with Devin Carter and Traylon Ray coming back at the Z spot that he was filling in for. And that X wide receiver position has underperformed this year with Cortez Braham and Jeremiah Aaron, both, suffering some drop issues. I think each of them only have a catch or 2 on the season. So, West Virginia, that's one thing they talked about following the Duquesne game, both in the secondary and then at the wide receiver position. People that, weren't performing weren't going to get as many reps. We saw Hudson Clement step up against Duquesne. We knew that would lead to more snaps for him, but Neil Brown actually revealed that led to him filling in. He's going to take over for Cortez Braham as the starter for the Mountaineers at the other outside wide receiver position there at the X spot. So I like that. You're getting Hudson Clement and Devin Carter on the field together as the starting outside wide receivers for the Mountaineers. And then you're working in Preston Fox and Rodney Gallagher, et cetera, in the slot there. Like what the Mountaineers are bringing in there. with Hudson Clement's performance. Hopefully he can replicate that against the Power 5 team and against the rival. But I also like it because he's a West Virginia native, and I like West Virginia having a ton of those on the roster starting on this offense for this game. I think they're really going to be hungry to go out and get a victory over Pitt. They know what this rivalry means. They know how important this is to the fan base, how important this game is overall. So I love the fact of all these West Virginia natives that we have starting for this game. That can only bode well for the passion they're going to bring to this rivalry, and I think the effort that they're going to put forth. So I'm excited to see Hudson Clement get a start. I'm also excited to hear Neil Brown say we're pretty much fully healthy at the wide receiver position. So we're going to see Traylon Ray back probably. E.J. Horton, I think he said would be a game-time decision, but could see him make his debut, and that could be a weapon West Virginia could use to get over the top on Pitt with his great speed. But all in all, Hudson Clement starting in the backyard brawl. And it also sounded like Marcus Floyd might be getting his starting spot back at the cat safety position. I'm not sure. I don't have the exact quote right here. I don't think it's in this article, but Neil Brown mentioned when talking about Marcus Floyd coming back because he's going to be making his season debut. He was the starter for the Mountaineers at the cat safety position last season. Anthony Wilson's been starting at the cat so far this season. I think Keyshawn Cobb might have been mixed in there a little bit as well, but getting Marcus Floyd's back either way, whether he starts or not, because as one thing I've talked about, West Virginia needs some depth at those safety spots. They've only been playing 3 people total across the 2 positions, not counting the Duquesne game when the reserves got in. Avery Wilcox got an interception there, the walk-on, but he's not going to get a ton of playing time at the safety position this season. It's going to be the guys you've seen, Aubrey Burks, Anthony Wilson, Keyshawn Cobb, and now Marcus Floyd hopefully getting involved back in the action. We'll see if he does end up starting there or how many reps he gets. But nonetheless, we know the secondary needs to improve for the Mountaineers, so that's a piece that's coming back and hopefully going to factor into that improvement we're looking to see versus Pittsburgh. But wanted to share that coming out of the Neil Brown radio show tonight. Hudson Clement starting in the backyard brawl at the X wide receiver position, and potentially Marcus Floyd as well, but both making their return, and sounds like a nearly fully healthy receiving core for West Virginia for the first time this season as well. So that's got to excite you, especially when you're getting the speedy guys back and how well Garrett Green's thrown the deep ball already. When you get those guys that can really get behind the defense and take the top off, could bode well for West Virginia in this game, especially Pitt knowing West Virginia wants to run the ball. They're probably going to load up the box after seeing what C.J. Donaldson did to him last season. So play action could be a weapon for West Virginia in this game. I mentioned it in the preview podcast. I think if E.J. Horton comes back, Traylon Ray, we heard about Hudson Clement, 22.7 miles per hour on the GPS unit. So absolutely flying. So West Virginia does have some speed there. And Garrett Green's deep ball rating is absolutely awesome. 92, I believe it is, on passes over 20 yards or more. One of the highest in all of Power 5, is the highest currently in the Big 12. So, for what everyone said about Garrett missing those, quote unquote layups, Neil Brown has talked about in the intermediate to short range passing game. His deep ball has been on the money all season. Like I said, 92 grade on PFF on that deep ball. And even the ones that he's missed have been right in the breadbasket of the wide receivers. We've seen a couple drops even in the end zone. So I love what I've seen on Garrett Green's deep ball, and hopefully it can be a weapon in this game. And I like Hudson Clement getting some more reps there. So that's something I wanted to share there story-wise. But continue. Drop your all's thoughts in the chat there. We'll try and catch up on those as we continue throughout, and drop those score predictions in there. Share those on the screen for sure. Jimmy says he does think it'll be a good game, though. I don't think it'll be a high score, at least not what he's seen from WVU offense. Yeah, or the Pitt offense for that matter. I mentioned in the preview pod, it could even be a race to 20 type game. I certainly don't think it'll be high scoring either. I don't really see anybody getting to 30. If they do, then it's probably out of hand one way or the other. So I think, you're looking at a game that's being played high teens, low to mid 20s probably. I definitely agree with you right there. Timothy calling you out. He says you're confident you'd like to make a 5,000 bet on the side. Oh, okay. Okay, Timothy. I see you, man. I don't think he's that confident. It's a toss-up game. I got the golden blue glasses on that might make me be feeling a little bit extra confident because, like I said, when it's a rivalry, you just never know what to expect in these type of games. But the home atmosphere, just the night game in Morgantown, everything I think is kind of leading into WVU's favor a little bit. The only downside is, Pitt losing last week in the way they did. They're going to correct some things. Their run defense is probably going to be improved, certainly to what it was last week, and I think that they're going to be a little bit angry with their performance. So West Virginia is definitely not going to get the same Pitt team that Cincinnati faced. They're going to have to be ready, but this home crowd's going to be ready. We're going to be amped up. I know I'm going to be there. Stephen and Brad are going to be there. A lot of people I know are going to be there. It's going to be an absolutely packed house, and the one comparison I keep drawing is 2011 LSU. I think it's going to be that type of atmosphere, that type of noise level, may even surpass that. But I got a couple more news topics I'll share here momentarily. Continue, drop your all's questions in the chat, your all score predictions for the backyard brawl. Take a swig of my coffee, and then I'll continue on with a couple stories I have. There we go. Much better, much better. All right, and speaking of Garrett Green, I did want to share this actually from last week as well. I believe this is also from PFF. Yeah, PFF's highest graded Power 5 quarterbacks from week 2. Obviously, we know the opponent for West Virginia, but still, nonetheless, a 90.5 grade for Garrett Green was very good. You also probably saw that if you watched our player grades video. We release that every Sunday or Monday immediately following the game. So, of course, you can be on the lookout for that after the backyard brawl as well. And a spoiler alert, though, for the first 2 games, the highest graded Mountaineer player on offense, according to PFF, Garrett Green, both games for West Virginia. I believe he was an 85 grade in the game against PFF. And then, as you see here, 90.5 against Duquesne, one of the highest graded Power 5 quarterbacks. So, I think people are sleeping on Garrett Green a little bit. And I talked in our, preview podcast about Pittsburgh. They may not do it as much in this game because they know about Garrett Green's legs, but typically they're a team that plays man-to-man coverage and press physical man on the outside. And if they do that, even with a spy, Garrett Green's been known to beat out the quarterback spy anyway. But if they're playing a lot of man-to-man, I think Garrett Green could have a good game, not only with his arm going over the top, like I mentioned earlier, talking about his deep ball, but if they're playing man-to-man, that's not going to be a lot of eyes on him. If he breaks contain and gets out, he could be 10, 15, 20 yards down the field before they have a chance to get on him if they're in that man-to-man coverage all night. I don't think they'll utilize it as much. For that reason, we'll probably see Pitt play a little bit more zone than they typically do in this game because of that. But, just something to keep an eye on. Social Hack says, if you saw the stat line at the end of the night, which would you believe is more meaningful to winning the game for WVU? 175 rushing yards or 3 passing touchdowns thrown by Garrett Green? Great question there. I'll have to ponder that for a second. I would probably have to say the 3 passing touchdowns, honestly. I know the 175 rushing yards is going to be important, but I think West Virginia can get that. With West Virginia's offensive line and stuff, I'm expecting them to hopefully get, at least around 150 rushing yards per game this season is something around that is what I'm expecting. So I think that the rushing yards will come, but I also think it's going to be a focus of Pittsburgh to stop the run, much like it'll be West Virginia. I think, honestly, both of these defensive coordinators may have similar game plans. I know I would if I was them. If I was West Virginia, I would shut down the Pitt run game. And after what Jurkovic's shown so far this season, I would say, okay, let's see if he can beat us. Much like what West Virginia did against Penn State, but Drew Aller proved that he could. I don't know if Jurkovic can. And much like Pittsburgh, they're probably thinking the same way. Let's stop the run game. Let's not let Garrett Green's legs hurt us. Let's try and make him beat us with his arm. So I think, if that is the case, the 3 passing touchdowns are going to be more valuable. And plus, when we're talking about a game where scoring could be at a premium, we're expecting it to be a little bit lower scoring. 3 passing touchdowns, that's 21 points. That's going to be major in this game, I think. So I guess all in all, I'd have to go with that, Social Hacks. But great question. I appreciate you tuning in and chiming in there. Continue everybody else to drop your questions there if you'd like. Drop your score predictions for the game. Share those on the screen as well. Did want to share the recruits who will be in attendance for the backyard brawl. There are a few, at least, that we know of here, courtesy of our friends over at WVSportsNow.com and Mike Ostie with this article. But Zay Jennings, who we know already committed to the Mountaineers, the athlete out of Ohio, 6'2", 187-pounder. He will be in attendance for the game, as will Eli Lee, a linebacker recruit out of Ohio. And then you get a long snapper recruit, Caden Seller, also out of Ohio, who's going to be in attendance for this game as well. Which that reminds me, I haven't done this in a while and don't have a ton of news topics anyway. So see if I can pull this up and get a little bit of a refresher on the recruiting class for the Mountaineers. I think they have 20 commits, if I'm not mistaken, on the 2024 class. Let's see if I can pull up the commitment tracker here. I know I've got it. Bear with me momentarily here. Here we are. Let me share it on the screen for you guys. Yeah, so this is where we are. I believe it's 19 or 20 commits. Curtis Jones, the in-state linebacker, being the latest. But you see Zay Jennings is the one that would be visiting this week. He's one of the ones visiting. The other two not yet committed to West Virginia, so those are your guys they're trying to get. But bringing Zay Jennings in, maybe that's good. Maybe he can put a little bug in their ear. West Virginia will probably bring in another, 2 to 4 guys in this class, I would think, high school recruits wise, maybe. We'll see how it rounds out. But, signing day coming up, we're probably just about 3 months away now. It's usually around December 21st, December 22nd range, something like that. So getting close to signing day, but West Virginia's recruiting class, really like the way that it's shaping up thus far. Couple of good 4-star players in there. I think Khalil Wilkins at quarterback's very underrated. I like him. I like the running back Dewar Hubbard, and we've seen West Virginia really hit home runs on 3-star running backs in recent recruiting classes. Hopefully they're doing that again. And as you can see, very heavy on defensive backs, and that's got to bode well. That's the area we've seen the struggles in last season and thus far through 2 games this season is in the secondary. West Virginia has some young guys on campus, but they also have some old guys. If you're looking at the 2 starters you're probably going to see come out against Pitt, both of those guys are veteran players, Beanie Bishop and Malachi Ruffin, who won't be around. So you're going to need to bring in some other guys to compete with the young guys that you have. Wilson Lamp, we documented his struggles last game, hoping to see him bounce back this week. Jacoby Spells, we haven't seen a ton of yet this season. I think he's certainly going to get his opportunities this weekend when they're talking about demotions and promotions and changes at the cornerback positions. So I'm interested to watch that. But I think bringing in some of these young defensive backs to compete is going to be awesome. And there's a lot of them that will be joining the roster next season. But wanted to share that on the screen since I hadn't done that in quite some time there as far as the recruiting class goes. But what are we watching? Says the lines are crazy. He's thinking WVU wins big, though. Yeah, the lines have been moving back and forth a lot. I think I remember it started. It was either +2 or +3 Pitt. It's came all the way now. Last I looked, it was -3 West Virginia on DraftKings, I think. So, West Virginia, that's about what I honestly expected because, when you get that, the home field advantage usually gives you 3 points. So I was honestly expecting the spread to be, West Virginia favored by 3 because just being the home field advantage, giving them the points because these teams are kind of evenly matched. Both have faced a Power 5 opponent and lost. Both have faced a FCS opponent and one-handedly. So I think both of them are kind of trying to see where they're at, and this game's going to show a lot. But, I don't want to give away my prediction too much because I want people to go check out the Preview and Predictions podcast episode. You can watch it here on YouTube or listen on any audio podcast platform you like, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. Just search Country Roads Webcast. Subscribe to us there just as you do here on YouTube. But I'm not far off from you. I'm not going to give away the exact score, but I will say that I definitely think that West Virginia wins. And I've got a good feeling about it. I said that earlier. I'll continue that as well. And lastly, the only thing I have news and notes wise, then I will just catch up on your all's comments if we got any more. So one more time, I want to encourage you, drop your score predictions in the chat there for West Virginia versus Pitt. Want to catch up on those one more time before we close out here on this game week live stream here on the Country Roads webcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in here live. And, any other questions, comments you got there, drop them in there. I'll address them as well. But wanted to share this, of course, wanted to share the tail of the tape there, the statistical comparisons, but also for people that may not know, of course, the game's going to be on ABC, and you can see the people on the call here. We're going to have Sean McDonough on the play-by-play and Greg McElroy as the analyst, the former Alabama quarterback, and then, of course, Molly McGrath on the sideline. And then, of course, on the radio, you got Tony Caridi with the Mountaineer Sports Network, the national radio there on Sirius, Mike Golick Jr. and Chris Hassel. Satellite radio broadcast, Sirius Channel 84. And, of course, like I said, television is ABC. Stats comparison, as you can see right here, it is West Virginia is scoring 27.5 points a game compared to 33 for Pitt. First downs, Pitt's picked up 48 to West Virginia's 37. Rushing offense, Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong one here. West Virginia's on the other side. I was about to say, I know we're averaging more rushing yards than that. Let me rephrase this. That was West Virginia's opponents. Let's restart this from the top. West Virginia, 35.5 points per game compared to 33 for Pitt. 47 first downs compared to 48 for Pitt, so almost dead even there. Rushing offense, West Virginia doing a great job rushing the football this season. 225 rushing yards per game through 2 games. Pittsburgh's there at 150. Passing offense for West Virginia, 238 yards per game compared to 226 for Pittsburgh. Total offense, West Virginia with nearly 100-yard advantage thus far, 463 yards a game compared to 376 for Pittsburgh. Time of possession, West Virginia, 31. Pittsburgh averaging about 33. Third down conversion percent. This is where we need to see West Virginia really step things up. 10 of 27, only 37% on the year, not getting it done there. Pittsburgh, much better on their third down conversion percentage, 13 of 28 at 46% there. West Virginia has done a good job on their fourth down attempts this season, and Neil Brown's has gone for it a lot, 11 of them thus far through 2 games. He has gone for it on fourth down. West Virginia converting 55% of those as they've converted 6 of that 11. Pittsburgh has gone for it on fourth down 6 times, converted 5 of those. West Virginia has 4 sacks on the year. Pittsburgh has 6, and that's to be expected. Pittsburgh, top 2 in the country in sacks each of the last 3 years. I believe they led the nation in sacks last season. Red zone scoring, not bad for the Mountaineers, 7 of 8, 88%, but Pittsburgh is a perfect 8 of 8, 100%. So you can see very evenly matched between these two teams on paper. I think, to me, I'm looking to the trenches. I think that's where West Virginia ultimately has the advantage in this game. I like their matchup on both sides of the ball. I like West Virginia's offensive line over Pitt's defensive line, and the other way around with how surprisingly Pitt's offensive line has struggled. And they have some youngsters they're playing on that offensive line as well that maybe West Virginia may be able to take an advantage of. West Virginia may bring some pressure to try and not only attack that offensive line that struggled at pass protection at times, but West Virginia has some great guys that have done a good job rushing the passer. Sean Martin, to me, why Durage has 2.5 sacks through these 2 games. So hopefully they're going to get in there. And we know Wasani Redwood's back, going to make his Mountaineer debut. Hopefully in this game, he was a sack machine. So hopefully I think West Virginia's able to provide some pressure. And also Phil Dracovic has not been good when pressured thus far this season. So if West Virginia's able to do so, I think it's going to bode well for them. Maybe they're able to force some turnovers. I've talked about the secondary issues that's plagued West Virginia this season. That's well documented. Don't need to tell you guys that. But if they are going to have issues in the secondary, they can make up for it by forcing turnovers, being a little opportunistic, as I mentioned on the podcast this week. And hopefully they're able to do that moving forward. Force 2 turnovers versus Duquesne. If they're able to force a turnover or 2 against Pittsburgh, win the turnover battle, really love their chances. As I already have said, I feel pretty good about the game in general. Let's see here. I'm going to catch up on some comments, and then I'll get up out of here before too much longer, guys. Appreciate everyone that's in here live with us on this Thursday night, just under 48 hours now away from the Backyard Brawl, getting close. I'm getting so excited. Got one more day of work tomorrow. I just got to get through work tomorrow, and then heading up to Morgantown. I'm going to catch the Backyard Brawl. My first one in person in Morgantown. Last year was the first Backyard Brawl I saw in person overall. Got to see it there at Acrisure Stadium. So hoping to have a better taste in my mouth coming back on the trip back home this time. Think that I will, with it being at Mountaineer Field. But also, like I said, Steven, Brad, and I are all going to be there. Don't know if we're all going to be together. We're going to hopefully all meet up. But I will have some Country Roads webcast stickers, some buttons. So if you see me, come over. I'll give you one. I've got 3 different logo variations. Going to hand those out while we're up there and try and pass those out. So if you see us, come holler at us. For sure, we'd love to talk to you guys and meet you. We'll be hanging out around before, I'm sure, in the blue lot somewhere or something. And then, of course, in the stadium, I think I'm in, I want to say I'm in section 132 for this one. Can't remember right off. That sounds about right, though. But that's one more thing I guess I could share is the Stripe the Stadium. A little update on that, and for everyone that is going to the game. Let me see if I can share the map there so everyone knows what they're supposed to wear in whatever section, potentially. Because I think I'm wearing gold. I believe I'm in an even section. Here we are. Yep. All right. So if you're in an even section, and of course upper level students wear gold, If you're in an odd numbered section, wear blue, as this is, of course, the Stripe the Stadium promotion for West Virginia here for the Backyard Brawl. So did want to share that. So glad we got into talking about that momentarily. But that's all I've got pretty much news topics wise. We'll catch up on your all's questions, comments, concerns, share your all score predictions. And then we'll wrap up here before too much longer. But throat's a little dry. Take a swig of my coffee, and then I'll catch up with you all in the chat. There we go. There we go. Social Hack says he saw Chris Anderson posted that a lot of money has gone on WVU the past couple of days, like 90% of the bets recently. Interesting. Seems like a lot of people are feeling, pretty confident about the Mountaineers in this one. And like I said, I've got a good gut feeling about it as well. But that signs, that's some type of sign, right? It's got to be a good one if you're a Mountaineer fan, I guess. I hate when the chat moves back down when I'm trying to, and it makes me lose my spot like that. There we are. Blake Green, what's going on, man? I haven't seen you in a while. Appreciate you tuning in and chiming in. GG with a 50-yard bomb to Devin Carter on the first drive. Hey, I like that prediction. I think Garrett Green's going to have a breakout game. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see it. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, and I like the deep ball that he's been throwing thus far this season, and I think hopefully he'll have some chances to do that in this game. I think West Virginia is going to have some guys on the field that can make plays. I like that prediction, Blake. I do. I think Devin Carter hopefully makes some noise. He sat out last week, so he's well rested and ready to go. WVU Football Going Deep. What's going on, man? Y'all head over, check out WVU Football Going Deep channel here on YouTube as well. A lot of great content discussing the West Virginia football team. I've really been loving a lot of stuff that he's been putting out. So if you're a West Virginia fan, be sure to check that out as well. He says O-line determined to prove themselves. West Virginia 35-17. Awesome for us. Love that prediction. Right on, man. I think so. I'm thinking similarly. I don't have West Virginia scoring as much, but I've got Pitt around that same range in my prediction as well. So I'm right there with you. I think the offensive line is going to be determined to prove something. And I think, I touched on a little bit earlier, 3 West Virginia natives on that offensive line. And not only are they 3 West Virginia natives, they're 3 really, really good players that are potential NFL type players, Zach Frazier, Wyatt Milam, and Doug Nestor. So I think that it's going to mean a lot to them to get this win, especially after they didn't last season. And, this could potentially be Zach Frazier and Doug Nestor's last time to do so. So I'm sure they're definitely going to want to try and come out on top with this one. I love what you're saying there about the offensive line being motivated, and I love that prediction. Social Hacks says, I don't know if DC can run away from defenders unless he's in the end zone. Hopefully. Yeah, I was thinking more maybe a Traylon Ray or Hudson Clement on that one too myself. Or I'm hoping, my bold prediction has been, since he's potentially maybe coming back for this game, has been the story that EJ Horton makes a play in this game. That's been my bold prediction, is that if he does come back, he'll make a play. But Neil Brown seemed to kind of walk that back a little bit in the radio show tonight and said that he's going to be a game time decision, actually. Which was funny because he was asked about it and he said, we're fully healthy at the receiver position, but then said EJ Horton was going to be a game time decision and that Traylon Ray he thought could play. So, but I think, Traylon Ray, EJ Horton, Hudson Clement, they provide some speed, Jashawn Polk as well. Not to say that Devin Carter can't get behind some guys and get deep. I think he's shown that ability. He had a big play against Penn State, but I think there's certainly guys that are faster that I would consider more deep threats, I guess, than Devin Carter, but I think Devin Carter's the guy that's going to probably lead you in receptions at the end of the day as well. W Football Going Deep says, remember when Bilal Marshall said we'd see lightning on the field? Got to think he meant Clement. Yeah, I think that you may be onto something there. That's a good point. I did not realize he was that fast, especially when they were talking about the 22.7 miles per hour. That's so impressive. So he very well could have been. I'm still hoping that maybe he was thinking EJ Horton, especially because maybe at that point he knew that he wouldn't be available for a little bit, so he could, say that and surprise some people with him. But maybe that's just me wishful thinking that EJ Horton makes his debut against Pittsburgh and makes a name for himself, making a huge play in the backyard brawl. But yours sounds more likely to me that he probably was talking about Hudson Clement, because they mentioned him here and there, but it was certainly something they were keeping close to the vest, I think, or either that or they just thought he was going to be good and he was going to contribute, but they didn't think he was going to explode onto the scene in the way that he did. But certainly seems like he has some speed, so that makes sense. Silas says first score of the game, GG on a quarterback keeper for an easy 6. I like that. I guess I got to throw mine out there too here before the end. Brad and Steven, of course, not on here with me this week, but that's one thing we always do on these on these Q&A streams is provide our prediction for the first play of the game and our prediction for the first touchdown of the game. So I'll do that here in a few as well. But I like your prediction there, Silas. First score of the game, Garrett Green on a keeper for 6. What are we watching? Says, love the show. I appreciate that. What are we watching? Awesome stuff. And your channel name just made me think of one more thing, because I don't think that I've shared this on the channel here yet, which I have no idea why I've not shared this on a stream here yet. So let me pull this up as well and share this, because I don't think I've told you guys yet. I may have posted on our social media, but I started a second channel as well. Obviously throughout the season, not going to be a ton of content going up on it, but it's just more in line with, guys know how I love pop culture. We used to always do the off-topic babble segment to start the podcast episodes. And so this gives me just more of a place to talk about that. I love movies, TV shows. That's my ultimate passion. So going to try to start discussing that a little bit on this channel. So, do me a favor if you would, hop over there. That's the channel name, JC's Pop Culture. Only got a couple videos out, right? Like I said, throughout the season, may not be as much going up there, but if you like, the pop culture discussion, I'm be talking movies, TV shows, maybe even some video games. It's going to be reviews, movie news, commentaries. Once I get enough subscribers on there, I'll maybe do some live streams on there as well, talk some movies with people and stuff. That'll be fun. But for now, I got a comic book movie review on there. You see the Flash review, and then Superman Legacy casting news, kicking off James Gunn's DCU. So just some different stuff there. If you like the other side away from sports as well, check out that and give me a subscription there, as I'm trying to build that up. Like I said, not going to be a ton of content going on through football season and basketball season, as I'm, pretty busy with the CRW side, but when I can, going to try and put out content on that channel as well. Comic book movies, horror movies, action movies, comedies. I like all those. So probably a good chance you'll see a lot of those, probably predominantly a lot of comic book movies and horror movies. But definitely check that out and hop over there. Give me a subscription if you guys would. Actually, I'm trying to see if I can link it in the chat, and you guys can just do it. Make it a lot easier for you guys to pop over there. Let's see if I can share it in here. There we go. I don't know why. I think "What Are We Watching's" name made me think of that, but it should be in the chat there. If you guys want to pop that in and click that link and subscribe over there as well, that'd be awesome. But appreciate you. What Are We Watching? Appreciate you a lot. Love having you in here. Talk is Pitt. What's going on, man? Appreciate you chiming in here as well. I always like seeing you in the streams also. What's your score prediction for the game? Throw it up there in the chat. I'll pop it up here on the screen, man. Love getting these in that prediction streams as well. Can't hardly talk tonight. Sorry. It's been a long day at work, guys. It's been a long day's work, but he says Pitt only has one youngster on offense, and the rest are super seniors and a junior with one freshman. Don't you guys have a freshman that's been playing at guard? I thought I heard that today on one of the things I was listening to, that you've had a right guard that's been struggling and he's young, or maybe his backup was the freshman. I'm not sure, but that's the one I was referencing when I was talking about the youngster on the offensive line, or maybe it was the tackle. But either way, it looks like he could be matched up with Sean Martin or Mike Lockhart, and I like the advantage there for West Virginia, because I think I saw on PFF his grade was in the 20s or something like that for the pass blocking in the last game against Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. I had it earlier, but I just lost it. But appreciate you, Talks Pitt, as always, man. You always got the knowledge. Timothy Green says, hey, that's cool, Jimmy. Somebody's got to do it right. Jimmy's going to give me a hard time always, Timothy. If nothing else, Jimmy's going to come in here and give me a hard time, as he says here, giving Cruz hell, done it since we were kids. Yeah, man. Jimmy's a lifelong best friend of mine. Even though he is a Virginia Tech fan, he's been giving me hell forever. He's never going to stop. So that's all right. I'm used to it by now. What Are We Watching? Says 34-17 WVU. Got another prediction for a West Virginia victory coming away pretty handedly there. Another double-digit victory for the Mountaineers. Like that. What Are We Watching? Appreciate you sharing your prediction there as well. Sal says a little late-night coffee. I respect it. Always, man. You know how I roll. I'll literally taken coffee to bed with me on the nightstand before. It just doesn't affect me, and as far as like keeping me awake and stuff, I guess just because I drink it so much, it just probably does nothing but speed up my heart rate at this point or something. Who knows? But Luke, what's going on, brother? Good to see you in here. He says, hope to see you all and hope we all have a good night Saturday. As do I, Luke. As do I. Hopefully, get to see you up there as well, Luke. Excited to be up there. Gonna be the first game I'm getting to go to this season. So hoping to see some good stuff. What are we watching? It says should loosen up the play calling. Hey, hopefully they do, man. Hopefully they do. I know saw some fun things in the second half against Duquesne, even though they kept it vanilla. And I got to think they have some things that they've held back. I think Tony Caridi tried to ask Neil Brown as much on his radio show tonight. Neil Brown kind of danced around the question slightly. So it seems like they do have something cooking. And I think that we may see some different things that we haven't seen yet. Maybe some people get involved more than we have seen. I'm looking for Jaheim White. I know he made his debut against Duquesne, but, they only ran a couple of plays for him. It was just basically inside zone, outside zone stuff with him for the most part from what I've seen. I got to think they have some pass packages for him, some interesting ways to get him the ball out in space that I'm going to be looking to see, as well as some of their other guys that we've already talked about, the Rodney Gallagher's of the world, etc. And I think they're going to find interesting ways to use C.J. Donaldson as well, probably because Pittsburgh's not going to be surprised by him. They're going to game plan for him. So they're going to have some innovative things. So hopefully they do loosen up the play call. And great point. Big E, 7375. Appreciate you in here, man. Tuning in and chiming in, sharing his prediction. And he's got the Mountaineers coming out with a handed victory, 35-10. And he says WVU rushes for 300. Hey, I hope so, man. I hope so. I want your prediction to be right, Big E. I want your prediction to be right. 300 rushing yards will be awesome, man. I haven't seen that in quite some time. Speaking of, I've been going back watching some old brawls in the lead up to this one, and I just watched the 2006 one the other night, and West Virginia put up some rushing yards that night. I mean, I think it was 400 some, because I know Steve Slayton and Pat White both ran for over 200. I think Pat went for 200 and 200. And I think Steve Slayton ran for 200 and had 100 receiving, if I'm not mistaken. 2006 game, that was an offensive explosion. And we were down at half in that game, too. Fun one to rewatch. And I'm hoping Saturday night we have a fun one to rewatch down the line in the future. Blake Green says he's been catching the videos after you post them. Grad school been taking up all his time. Love listening to him while I study, though. I appreciate that. Blake, always enjoy chatting with you. I know me and you always talking on Twitter as well, and you always got great insight there, or X, I guess it's called now. But I appreciate that. And, if you guys don't follow us there on social media, give us a follow on X, as you see on the bottom of the screen there, at WVU Country Roads. And then we're just Country Roads Webcast on Facebook and Instagram as well. So check us out there. But appreciate that, Blake. Always appreciate you. We love you, man. Mountaineer guy, what's going on, BJ? He says, I think we can dominate the run game versus Pitt. I think, from what I've seen thus far this season, there's that potential for us to do so. But I also think that, it's what I was talking about earlier, is they're going to dare us to pass the ball. I feel like they're going to try and say, we're going to stop the run. Let's see if Garrett Green can beat us. I feel like that's going to be their game plan. Now, if we can still run the ball, if that is their game plan, then that really just shows how dominant this offensive line for West Virginia could be this season, because I know we love its potential. But I think, West Virginia does have a very strong offensive line. We have a great slew of running backs. And, especially now with Jaheim White thrown into the mix, I feel like I'm, talking a ton about that guy, but he's my favorite player, guys. If you guys haven't picked up on that yet throughout this offseason, leading up this season and through the early parts, he's one of my most favorite players we've added to the roster in quite some time. But anyways, I think that West Virginia has the potential to do that, BJ, because I think if this offensive line can be as good as we think that it has the potential to be, then they certainly could. But also, rewatching the Cincinnati versus Pitt game, watch the condensed version they have on YouTube where it's like 20, 30 minutes or whatever. I think Cincinnati's defense and Cincinnati's offensive line, for that matter, were really strong as much as, Pitt's was weak. But just seeing what Cincinnati did, I think that West Virginia has horses that could do something similar. So, I'm just trying not to get my hopes up too much about it, to be honest with you, because with what we've seen, it's like, oh man, that looks like West Virginia should be licking their chops in the run game. But I know with this rivalry, funky stuff happens. So I'm just fully expecting them to shut down the run and us have to go to the air or something. something crazy because, just like I said, funky stuff happens in these backyard brawls. You never know. Talks Pitt says 3 out of the 5 linemen for Pitt are Pennsylvania kids. All but 2 of their defenders are Pennsylvania kids. They got local kids as well. That's awesome. That just makes it even more passionate, and I'm going to love seeing that passion on the field on Saturday night coming from both sides. It's going to truly be a backyard brawl out there with in-state players on both sides. That's when the rivalry is really fun, when you got that passion involved, and it really means a lot, and both sides really want to win the game. So that's awesome to hear and excites me even more for the game. Thanks for sharing that, Talk is Pitt. W football going deep needs to find out what the story is with Mallinger. No one is asking if he plays, will it still be a receiver, or will he move back to shore up the defense? Ooh, interesting. I hadn't thought about the potential of him maybe moving back to that side with, the issues we've been having, both depth-wise and performance-wise. But I don't know. That is interesting that nobody's asked yet about it, because I know that he was asked, during spring ball, and they made, a deal about the position change. But I was expecting him to hopefully be ready by the fall, but it is interesting that he hasn't been asked about, hasn't been brought up. So maybe he's still just a lot further away in his rehab than we thought he would be, and he's not, quite ready to play, or I don't know. It's interesting. Honestly, it slipped my mind, I guess, with just everything going on. I'd completely forgotten about Mallinger and his move over to offense, which was a move I was very excited about, because Mallinger's a player I've been very, very excited about since he came in with his speed and, certainly being one of the fastest players on the team in general. You'd love to see him get involved one way or the other. So hopefully someone asks soon. I don't know, man. We need to give you a press pass for us. That'd be awesome. That's what we need. Talk Spit says if David Green and Danielson are in, the WVU will have an easy time running the ball. If not, y'all may have a problem. Appreciate that, Talk is Pitt. Be on the lookout for those guys then on the field, and maybe they'll be able to stuff the WVU run game if Pitt doesn't have them on the field. So we'll see what happens. Appreciate your insight. Love getting a Pitt fan in here and getting that insight from both sides here for sure. Blake Green says he knows DC isn't a home run threat, but I think in big time games, your best players make big plays. He did it at NC State a decent amount. And he made a big play in, the Penn State game. That's the only time we've seen him thus far this season, and 6 catches, 90 yards is nothing to, shake your head at. So I think Devin Carter is going to make big plays, Blake. I don't disagree with you. Although he may not be the fastest, he could still make a big play. Horton was too obvious, but if Clemens is the second fastest receiver, then Horton is the fastest. So if Clement can run an insane 22.7 miles per hour, just how fast is Horton? Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because when they said the 22.7 miles per hour, and they're talking about, he's not, he might be the second fastest receiver or top 3 or whatever, then that would have to put Horton in 23 miles an hour. And that's rare company. There's not many people that can run 23 miles an hour. So, he may indeed have that scary speed as they put it, for sure. Big E 7'3", 7'5", first score. Donaldson with a run up the middle. That's always a good competitor. Hey, W Football going deep says, looks like I'll have to get you hooked on some older movies and TV. Hey, I love some old stuff. Literally, most of my favorite movies are 1990 and before, especially Hitchcock. I love anything Hitchcock. I got the whole House of Hitchcock collection. I love some old stuff too, for sure. I love James Dean. Speaking of older, John Hughes. John Hughes really is one of my favorite filmmakers. Anything John Carpenter, Kevin Smith. That's probably my 2 favorite directors. Kevin Smith, I hold near and dear to my heart. Whole other reasons or whatever. I won't get into all that. Bore people with the pop culture talk too much. But yeah, I'm always down to get in on older stuff. For us, appreciate that, man, for sure. I love it all. I got a wide array, pretty broad taste when it comes to movies, TV, etc. Usually if I sit down and watch it, I'll find enjoyment in it one way or the other, no matter the subject matter, to be honest. But yeah, for sure. Put me on some stuff. That'd be awesome. Talk is Pitt chiming in with his prediction. He says WVU 28, Pitt 21. I like it. That's a little bit high scoring than I would have expected you to chime in with. But I think that, both of these teams have, some question marks. So it very well could be right there. And that's not too much different than from what I had in our preview podcast. I had West Virginia winning by a little bit more, but I think that that's a very good prediction. Obviously, I think that that's one thing that I've been saying, Talk is Pitt, is to me, The difference is in the trenches. I think West Virginia has an advantage there. But also, I think just looking at it from the outside looking in, and obviously I don't know Pitt as well as you do, but I think that this West Virginia team seems like it's a little bit better than last year's West Virginia team was, and that Pitt's team's maybe slightly worse than last year's Pitt team was. I don't know if you'd agree with that or not. Let me know what you think. If you think this year's version of West Virginia is slightly better than they were last year, and maybe Pitt's either on par with where they were last year or maybe slightly worse. That's the way I've been kind of looking at it anyways. But BJ Williams, yes, that's the one I was thinking of. Yes, thank you. He's a freshman at the guard position. Appreciate that. Talk is Pitt. I was going to say it was something. I wanted to say the initials BW, but I didn't want to be wrong. I knew it had a W in there somewhere. I appreciate that. Timothy Green says, one thing I really liked about you, Talk Spit, is you are truly honest. 100% agree right there. He will tell it like it is, one way or the other. And I've always liked Talk Spit and always enjoyed him coming into the streams when he does. He's one of the few Pitt fans that does come in, and we always enjoy having him. But I want to say that, everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome here. College football fan, Big 12 fan, Pitt fan, doesn't matter. Just here to talk college football. It's fun. It's Jerkovic on why we might lose and probably will, or Jerkovic. Is it Jerkovic or Jerkovic? I don't know. I've heard it pronounced both ways, but I think Jerkovic, or I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I'm a little bit iffy on him. But also, Neil Brown said some good things about him. I know coach speak is a thing, but Neil Brown's talked about, his size and talked about him. He's mentioned him as a dual threat, but from what I saw, he did not look like a dual threat to me. But I don't know. I could be wrong there. For me, he looked like he struggled in the, trying when Cincinnati brought pressure. He didn't look like he really escaped the pocket. Looked like he, kind of was a deer in the headlights. Reminded me a little bit of Jarrett Dagey at times, when West Virginia would deal with that in the pass rush, especially when we played Minnesota in that bowl game and we had that terrible performance. That's kind of what that performance against Cincinnati reminded me of for the Pitt passing game, was West Virginia's passing game in the bowl game against Minnesota a couple years ago. But honestly, as far as Jerkovic, I understand what you're saying, Talkus Pitt, and I get it. I'm iffy on him as well. But he's not going to play worse than he did against Cincinnati, going 10 of 32. He's going to bounce back this game. I think you guys are going to establish the run, and then I think you guys are probably going to use the play action passing game. And if you guys are able to get that run going at all, I'm really worried about the play action passing game hurting us with how bad our secondary's been this year. So that's what makes me nervous is, yeah, y'all's quarterback has not looked good this season, but our secondary has looked suspect enough that he could turn around and this game be the game that is his get right game against us. And that has been the case for West Virginia last season with our bad secondary. Some quarterbacks that didn't play good most of the season had good games against us. So, I'm hoping that's not the case Saturday, but it very well could be. We're going to have to wait and see. This is a big time show me game for the West Virginia secondary. They said they made some adjustments following the season opener against Penn State that they didn't put on film against Duquesne, both in the way they're going to play coverage. Supposedly they're going to play more physical, maybe press even a little bit. And I guess maybe some things schematically and some of the people they're going to play. They didn't show that against Duquesne. So I'm hoping that causes an improvement there. We'll see. Mountaineer guy says, hope we can get back to the read option with Green and CJ. Hope to see White and Taylor more involved too. Yeah, I really like some of the things they showed with Cole Taylor in that last game, be it the RPO play where he was out in the flat and had that great look. So it's almost like an extended triple option on that RPO where they were running that read option, and then you had Cole Taylor sneaking out on a flat. So instead of having a pitch man behind you after you run that read option, he's got Cole Taylor out ahead on a little flat route that he can dump off, 3 or 4 yards. And, they did it and picked up a nice gain against Duquesne. And then they also ran a little nice tight end screen for Cole Taylor. I liked that. He showed some physicality after the catch. But I would personally like to see Cole Taylor get up the seam. Let's see if we can run one of those RPO, pop passes and maybe hit something up the seam in this game. I think that we've seen Cole Taylor do that a little bit in the spring, and we've heard tale of him doing a lot in fall camp, but we haven't really seen it a ton yet in this season. So I would love to see him make a play like that in this game. As far as the read option, I think it's going to have to be a weapon for West Virginia in this one, because from what I've seen from the Pitt defense, they're very fast. A lot of side-to-side stuff didn't seem to work against them. So I don't know if West Virginia's outside zone and stretch plays are going to work as much in this game. They could prove me wrong and do a great job with those still yet, because Wyatt Milam and Nestor have done a good job setting the edge on those plays for West Virginia when they have gone off tackle. But I think Pitt's defense, and from what I watched against Cincinnati, they were very fast side to side. And when Cincinnati did damage, it was up the middle. So I think, West Virginia is going to follow Zach Frazier a lot, especially early. But I think the read option can be a weapon because Pittsburgh does have, great edge rushers. Hayes coming off the edge is really good. So, to neutralize him, you can just make him the read man on that read option. And that's one way to try and neutralize him. And then also maybe run away from him a little bit. But also, Bengali Kamara is really good, screaming down on those run plays as well. So, Pitt does have some guys. They haven't put it all together this season, but they certainly do have some guys. But I agree with you, BJ. I would love to see more read option. Love to see more White and Taylor involved. I'm hoping to see Jaheim White's role continue to increase. My favorite running back on the roster. And I think the combination of him and CJ Donaldson together could be deadly moving forward. Power of CJ, the speed of Jaheim White. I love that mix. I love that mix right there. Talk is Pitt. The thing WVU fans need to be concerned about is y'all don't have the weapons on both offense and defense like you did last year. Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. That's the one thing I'm concerned about on offense is that if Pittsburgh does, load the box and try and say, hey, Garrett Green beat us like I'm expecting them to, especially with how you guys, play physical man coverage on the outside. I'm worried about West Virginia's receivers being able to get separation. And if we're having to rely on our passing game to try and win this game, will they be able to do that? They've certainly shown some things and some better capabilities in the game against Duquesne than they did against Penn State. But also their strength has been throwing the ball down the field. The short to intermediate passes is where Garrett Green struggled a little bit. The quote unquote layups that he's missed is what Neil Brown has called it. So I think, I'm a little bit worried about the weapons on offense as well. Defense too. I think you guys, like you said, the quarterback has really been the issue. Excuse me. And maybe the offensive line at times, pass protection, because I think you guys have really good skill players. I think Hammond's a great back. I think Carter's great. Flemister's good. I think y'all need to give the ball more to Hammond, get him lathered up a little bit. What do you have, like 6 carries last game? That's a guy I think needs to have, at least probably, 10 to 15. I like him, but I think the receivers, I think you guys really have some weapons. We saw what Mumpfield did last season. My parents live in Florida, so I watch a lot of the Gators, so I know about Reynolds. He's good. And what's his name? Bud Means. I know you guys have been targeting him a ton. Seems like you guys are trying to make him your number 1 wide receiver. And I don't know if he should be that guy for you guys. I would make Mumpfield the go-to guy if I was you all. But also, you guys have the weapons at tight end as well. Bartholomew is really good. So I think as far as like skill position players, I would give you all the advantage over us overall, even though I think West Virginia's running back room is better and deeper. But I think skill position players, because of what you all guys have proven at receiver, are probably better. And certainly what we've shown in the secondary, you guys have the advantage there. It's just the issue of, can y'all's pass rush hold up if we bring the pressure? And if we do bring the pressure, will Dracovic recognize it and make the right read quick enough? Because it seems like he struggled a bit when pressured this season, and he struggled recognizing the pressure as well and where it's coming from and where his hot read is and things like that. So, I agree. I think you guys do have a lot of talent on your team. It just hasn't came together thus far this season. And I've just got my fingers crossed, Paucus Pitt, that it doesn't come together Saturday night for the first time. Let's see, where was I at here? Pitt's defense shut down Cincy in the second half. Yeah, they did. Absolutely did. Completely tell of 2 halves there. If you guys would have played like that the whole game, I think you guys may have won that game, honestly, because the run game that Cincinnati had in the first half was not working in the second half. And that's just another thing that, makes me a little bit nervous for West Virginia in this one, is because that was just off of halftime adjustments. Now you guys are going to have, the film to look at to review what you did wrong in the run game in that one and have a whole week to correct that. So your guys' run defense, I'm expecting to be much better than it was against Cincinnati. And I think West Virginia is going to have to make some plays in the pass game at least to be able to win this game. Garrett Green's going to have to do something with his arm, whether it's hitting a deep ball or 2 or something. Something's going to have to give in the pass game. CJ Donaldson's not going to surprise you guys either this year. I'm hoping Jaheim White surprises you guys, though. I'm hoping to see him do something out of the backfield. But, yeah, I think that you guys do still have, strong players on the defensive line and a strong defense overall. that run defense is not a typical Pitt run defense that you guys showed in the first half against Cincinnati. I'm not expecting to see that repeated, honestly. But I'm going to take a swig of my coffee real quick, and then I'll catch up on your all's comments again. W Football Going Deep says we're going to try and send a text question about Mallinger during Neil Brown's Kegler's radio show, but he ended up having to run errands late. He said he'll try next week if doesn't hear anything before then. Yeah, definitely do that if we don't, because I would love to hear myself as well an update on Mallinger. And it's interesting too because Neil Brown's been talking about injuries and hasn't brought him up. And I also recently got an update that Tyreek Austin Cave, who we're looking at to potentially be a backup there at the Mike linebacker position, the Miami transfer, is also out with an injury. And Neil Brown's never mentioned that either. So, it's interesting that he hasn't been brought up at all. Whew. Sorry, guys. Allergies sometimes get me. Let's see what else we got. Jimmy says he loves some John Carpenter and Kevin Smith. You know it, man. You know it. John Carpenter is also my go-to alias. If I make a takeout order anywhere, I always use John Carpenter. That's the name. And then I go and it's a pickup for Carpenter. Sal says, seems like most score predictions are taking the over for this game. Interesting. What is the over-under? I haven't even got a chance to look at that. I would assume it's in the 40s. Maybe it's 50 at most, I would think. But I don't know. I don't know if I would take it or not. I did take the over against Duquesne because the over, I think, was 54.5 or 55, and I knew West Virginia would probably get close to 50 themselves. Of course, they end up getting over that, but so I took that one. But I don't know. I'm gonna have to see what that is. Might have to put a little something on that. I did get in early on the action enough to get in on the spread when Pittsburgh was still favored. I tried to hop in on that early because I had a feeling it would swing back. So I did get in on that, and I might get down on the money line or something too. I think I gotta look a couple promotions on DraftKings, something fun to play. But what are we watching? Says the DBs for WV. Yikes. Yeah, indeed. That's been an issue thus far this season. But like I said, they made some adjustments. So hopefully we'll see some changes and it'll look a little bit different this week. Got to hope that it does. Got to hope that it does for sure. I think Malachi Ruffin will start on the opposite side, opposite of Beanie Bishop. Hopefully that pays off well. Marcus Floyd coming back, maybe that makes a difference. Who knows? But I think Jacoby Spells is going to see some reps too. Hopefully he's ready to step up and start coming to his own too. But yeah, got to have improvement there. Let's see. Yeah, I agree. It seems to be his new standard as well. And I think that it's just him following suit with, a lot of other coaches because it's kind of, what he said in that first week with that matchup against Penn State. If they're not going to release the depth chart, he wasn't either. They were going to talk about injuries. He wasn't either. And so I guess, he's like, why give it away if he doesn't have to? 47.5. Okay, that sounds about right. Yeah, because what's that? It'd be about 24 or 21, 20, something like that. So yeah, that's probably pretty close to around what it's going to be. That's a good line. That's a good line. I don't know if I'd take the over on that or not. 45. I would have maybe took the over on that one. I don't know though. My score prediction, I'm trying to think, what did I have exactly score wise? I think I had 40. I had 40 in my total in my prediction on the preview pod. So yeah, seems like somewhere in the 40s seems like the sweet spot, but watch it come out and be a shootout. So I'm surprised. I saw highly doubt it, but you never know. David Football Going Deep says, actually, we didn't have enough weapons on offense last year and have more at quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. Linebackers are better overall this year, and actually so is the D-line overall. Yeah, the front seven for West Virginia has been fantastic on defense, and I think that West Virginia does have more weapons themselves than they do last season, especially when you're talking like potential guys that haven't necessarily gotten out on the field in an extensive period yet. Devin Carter, he has, but just not at West Virginia. We were talking about like guys like Rodney Gallagher, Hudson Clement, Preston Fox. So I think West Virginia does have more weapons on offense than they did last year, especially with the deep running back room. But I think the guys that Pittsburgh has, what I was just more referencing is that they just have guys that we've seen do it already at this level. When you're talking about Means, who was a transfer in, and we played against him in Mumfield last year, and then Reynolds, who already did it in the Power 5 at Florida. West Virginia has a couple of those guys, Cole Taylor, our running back room, Devin Carter. But then the others are still we're learning a little bit about. But I think that talent-wise, they match up really good. And I think that I like our skill position players this year a lot better than I did last season. And I also like the advantage or potential advantage that having a rushing quarterback in Garrett Green could provide to this matchup. And it's just an added element that we didn't have last season. But couldn't agree more about the linebackers and defensive line overall. They've been fantastic, really, if you're asking me. I think they've been great, especially rushing defense, and we're going to need them to continue that performance, obviously, in this game. He says WVU defense will bring pressure and get in the backfield often. Question is whether or not they will keep the quarterback in the pocket. That was a big problem against PSU and early with Duquesne. Yeah, I think that we just need better – whoever it is, whether it's the bandit, the will linebacker, the spear, at any given moment, whoever we have out there that needs to set that edge, really needs to set that hard edge so that when we do get those pressures, that quarterback can't break contain, because that has been what's hurt us, whether it's been stepping up in the pocket and then breaking containment and keeping his eyes downfield and making big plays like Drew Aller did a ton at Penn State. And then, like you said, in that first quarter and a half, that Duquesne quarterback did a couple times as well. I think that if West Virginia is able to get pressure on Dracovic, I know Neil Brown's referenced him as a dual threat a couple of times, but from what I've seen personally, I think that we can get to him. I think that, these times that we've been close, that Trey Lathan seems like he's been very close a ton on a lot of delayed blitzes close to the quarterback, but hasn't quite gotten home. Maybe they're able to get home some against Dracovic. I think that, and I'm hoping that West Virginia does bring some pressure in this game, because I think that's a recipe for success as well, WVU football going deep. But I think I'm about all caught up now. Mountaineer guy says he's impressed with how good Trey Lathan is already. 100% agree there. I was not expecting him to make as big of an impact as he has already, especially with how the coaches were talking about, that will linebacker spot being a question mark, although he's really been playing Mike mainly. It seems like, and Lee Koba's been at the wheel, but I think it's been beneficial for both of them, how they've been interchangeable at those two spots. I think they've both really been shining. I mean, Koba's been racking up a ton of tackles, and Lathan, you see the speed and athleticism for him, and he, I think, is going to end up with some sacks before it's all said and done. He's been providing a ton of pressure, got a lot of hits, but hasn't gotten any sacks quite yet. He's going to get one soon. Hopefully it's coming up this Saturday against Pitt. But appreciate everyone that's tuned in here to this Q&A stream, this prediction stream that we always try and do here towards the end of game week. We'll be back next week with another one ahead of the game against Texas Tech. But before then, we'll be back with our Backyard Brawl Review and Reactions podcast episode, which you can catch releasing Monday or Tuesday on the channel here on YouTube. And, of course, it'll be out on all podcast platforms on the audio side as well, if you like to tune into it that way. And then, of course, coming up following the game will be the post-game show, which you can catch on the West Virginia Voice of College Football channel and the Big 12 Voice of College Football channel. We're still working out who's exactly going to be hosting that from the home base, as all Steven, Brad, and I will all be at the game. We're trying to get somebody to host that, work the controls and all that, but I'm hoping to still pop in on my phone and be involved there in the post-game shows. But if you want to watch the post-game shows immediately following the conclusion of every WVU football game this season, be sure to subscribe to the West Virginia Voice of College Football channel or the Big 12 Voice of College Football channel, as it's simulcast on both of those. But if you don't get a chance to tune in live there and catch our thoughts immediately following the game, like I said, you can catch it in our review and reaction podcast, which we'll be releasing a couple of days following the game. And then, of course, as far as our schedule, as it is, in these game weeks, what you can expect next week, in case you didn't get a chance to take in all the content this week, post-Duquesne, pre-Pitt. Maybe you can do it next week, post-Pitt, pre-Texas Tech. So how it usually goes, as I said, the post-game show immediately following the game. Then we'll get the review podcast out to you guys. And also around that time, I'll release the player grades video, usually on Sunday or Monday following the game, where I detail the top 5 highest rated players on PFF for the West Virginia offense and defense in the game. And then I'll usually do a snap counts, injury report, and depth chart live stream to begin the week there on Monday or Tuesday, where I'll update all the snap counts from the game before. So we'll talk about who had as many snaps on offense for West Virginia against Pitt, and on defense for West Virginia against Pitt. Who played however many snaps? Did we get some youngsters in? Did we see some new faces? Did some of these guys return from injury? We'll reveal all that in the snap count stream following the game. And then Our preview podcast will be releasing a couple days after that. And then we'll have this stream that you're watching currently, have that coming out as well. So, that's 4 or 5 things that you can steadily expect to come out from us weekly here throughout football season. And then additionally, there may be some other things coming out news-wise, interview-wise. You never know, but always you can count on those coming out throughout football season. So plenty of West Virginia football content moving forward, but it's coming, guys. We're almost there. Saturday night, the Backyard Brawl returns to Morgantown. Night games return to Morgantown. Hopefully we get that Mountaineer magic back at those night games. I really appreciate everyone that's tuned in here to the stream live, or if you're tuned in on a playback, drop a like before you head out. Be sure, give us a subscription. Follow us on social media at WVU Country Roads. You see there on the bottom, Country Roads Webcast on everything else, and Country Roads Webcast on all podcast platforms. If you didn't get a chance to drop your score prediction here live in the chat, drop it in the comments there. We still like to see your prediction for this game. Ours is a West Virginia win. I'll give that away. I won't give away the exact scores because I'd like you to check out our preview prediction podcast episode where me and Bradley did give our keys to victory and our score predictions and talked about some of the games around the conference. So check that out as well if you haven't already. But guys, I'm excited. I know you all are too. Just a couple more nights sleeps, and then we are ready for Backyard Brawl Day, and it's going to be an awesome Saturday up there in Morgantown. So hopefully you guys are turning in soon after this stream. I know I will be. And then, you wake up and you make it through one more day, and then it's game day. It's the Backyard Brawl time. It's Pitt Hate Week. So, got to close this out with it. Eat shit Pitt. Simple as that. That's what you got to say this week. That's how it goes. It's Pitt Hate Week, Backyard Brawl Week. Mountaineers going to get the win Saturday night. Got a lot of predictions for it in here in the stream, and I'm agreeing with you guys. Talk is Pitt. Appreciate you tuning in as well, and any other Pitt fans that may have had a chance to tune in. If any of you guys are attending the game in Morgantown, like I said, look for us. We'll all 3 be up there. Maybe we can chat with you guys there. We'll be hospitable. We'll be friendly, and it should be a fun atmosphere, though, for that game. Should be a rabid atmosphere, and I'm very excited to be up there and be a part of it. So having said that, we'll talk to you guys after the game. Hopefully it's a great Backyard Brawl. As always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.